topic today is the 5 most common Propstream mistakes. And I have quite a lot more than 5, but we're gonna stick to 5 and kind of hit to the main ones. And my background, just so you know, is I'm a data nerd. I worked for Chevron for 10 years doing big data. And when I got into real estate in 2016, all I cared about was data. And so that's when I started using Propstream. And I actually think it's an incredible software. I absolutely love it. The only problem with Propstream is this. It's almost so good. So I just looking, they're getting 1.1 million visitors a month. Well, I think it came down a little bit, but yeah. So the problem is that everybody and their mother is using it. And when you get so many people using one thing, even something great is no longer any good. And so because of that, you just need to be way more careful about it. And on top of that, Propstream was kind of like one of the original data providers in this space. But since then, there's come a lot more. So one of them I was going to show you is PropWire, and PropWire has 100% free data. And so, yeah, there's still stuff you want to use Propstream for, but why use Propstream when for the majority of your data, you can get it all for free? So, okay, let's just dive right in, and I'll start talking about it. So that's the first mistake. I would say using it as your main data source. If you're a new real estate investor, or you have under, say, I would say under a $4,000 budget, you cannot afford just to pull Propstream data and use that as your main data source, because one, so many other people are using it, and then two, it just doesn't have all the different data sources you need. And so what I would suggest is, if you are doing like a huge amount of cold calling or texting or ringless voicemails or something, and you need a large amount of data, go ahead and use PropWire. You can get all the stuff you need for that. And then just use Propstream and some other data sources we're going to talk about for some more of this specialty data. So that's the first mistake I see, is people just relying upon this one data source for all of their marketing. Just things are not going to work out great. All right, moving on. Number 2 is not validating data before pulling the list. So I see this a lot, and I've definitely been guilty of a lot of doing this a lot, is coming up with a cool list of like, okay, I'm going to come up with expired listings, for example. And so you come in and you do all, well, I don't know why I have tax delinquencies here, but you create all your filters and you're like, okay, I want expired listings. So you go to Feld and you put on all your perfect filters and you're like, okay, boom, I'm done, I'm good. Well, unfortunately, not all the data is completely accurate. And so what you have to do, although it sucks, is to spend, the first time you're creating a list, spend an hour going through the different properties and validating if what it says is actually true. So this is for expired listings, this is for liens, this is for tax delinquencies, all the same thing, where you think if you just create a list, you're good, and in fact, the list might not be accurate. So it's been a while since I tested it, but certain lists are only about 30% accurate. And so you probably shouldn't pull that list. So expired is an easy one, like failed listings. What you would want to do is just copy the address, go into Zillow, and look at the history and see, okay, I have a filter on here that was at least 150 days on market. And you'll want to see, okay, was this house really 150 days on market? Did it really expire without selling? And just go through a bunch of properties and verify that. So the MLS, that one would probably be a little easy. What things like, I was thinking about like tax delinquency list, that you could verify, on your county recorder's office or in the Treasury Department. So You know, I just pulled up Omaha as the example here. You would put in the address, and every county is going to be different, but I'm just showing you, yeah, this takes a ton of work for one property, but you need to do it for at least one, you know, at least a dozen properties to verify that the information is correct. So I pull this up, treasurer's tax report, and of course every county is going to be different, but then you're going to look and you're going to say, okay, like in this example, these guys were tax delinquent for a couple years between 2018 and 2020. And so in this particular case, this filter, I've removed it, but this was correct. And some things are going to be harder to verify, but everything that you see here, you can verify. It's not like they have some secret data that you can't get access to. The only thing Propstream is doing is making it easy to accumulate a lot of data and do those filters quickly. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. I'd love to dive into each one of these more, but thought I would go through them all a little quickly, and then we can go back in if you have any questions. But bottom line is, after you create your filters, test and verify that it is accurate. Some of them are incredibly inaccurate. And here's why. Like, a large part of it is because it took me a long time to figure this out, but I finally did. It's not that Propstream is necessarily doing anything wrong. It is that certain information sticks with the property, not with the owner. And that might be a little confusing, but think about like a divorce, for example. If I search for a divorce here, divorce filing, that is going to stick on the person. And so if I say, hey, find me owners who had a divorce in the last 3 years, it's going to be able to do that. But if I all of a sudden say, hey, show me somebody that had a tax delinquency in the last 3 years, the reason it may not be accurate is because the property could have changed hands. And this tax delinquency information, along with a lot of other data sources, are stuck with the property. And so when you're looking for, hey, did the property have a tax delinquency in the last 3 years? Well, yes, it did. But it's not the right information you're looking for, because you're looking for an owner who had a tax delinquency on them. And since it's changed hands, that information is not really relevant for you. And so understanding certain things stick with the property no matter what, certain things stick with the owner no matter what. And so understanding how these filters work might help you to get more accurate results when creating the filters. So liens will stick. Some liens stick with the homeowner, some liens will stick with the property, depending on what liens you're looking at. Tax delinquencies will stick to the property. Mortgage information, believe it or not, will oftentimes stick with the property. When a mortgage is filed, it's filed and it's in the recorder data. And so when we're doing searches and we're saying, okay, show me anyone, let's say, who had an interest rate over, 10%. Well, it's looking at the recorder data. It's guessing the interest rate. I'm going into the weeds here, but bottom line is it'll look and say, okay, this record, this property record had this. And so it's going to bring it up, even if the owner has since changed. So I think I'm beating that one to death, but it's quite interesting. But validating your filters before doing it in mass or doing it on a regular basis. All right, third big mistake I see is, and this isn't really Propstream, this is across the board. When marketing stops working or when you're not getting great results, what I see a lot is people going wider. They're like, okay, it didn't work here, so I'm going to go to my neighboring town, or I'm going to expand the zip codes that I'm targeting, or I'm going to add in more lists. What I would suggest you do is to really spend more money on targeting the right people in a smaller area than just keep expanding. Um, so I can talk a lot about this, but I need to go through it rather quickly. Hopefully, you've all seen this zip code tool that we've built. If you haven't, you should go to hottestzip.com. And there, this is, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I could spend forever, but essentially what you're looking for is you're trying to figure out where's all the distress going on? What are the best areas to target? And so instead of keep expanding into more areas, what I would highly suggest is narrow your focus, target more people in the right area before expanding. And so as an example, let's just go back to Omaha. Okay, so we're back in Omaha. Now, you could look at Omaha and say, okay, let me just go back to the total metro here real quick. I don't know how many people there are. Let's just say there's a million people in this market. So you could say, okay, I want to go super wide and target all million people. Okay, here we go. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counties in this Nebraska, Omaha market. And you could say, okay, I'm not getting enough reach in my Douglas, so I'm going to expand into Sarpy County, or I'm vice versa. What I'm suggesting that you really do is start with figuring out where the highest amount of transactions are taking place, where the most amount of distress is, where you have the best opportunity to do deals, and go heavy deep into that one market and then expand into more and more zip codes. So I have lots of other videos on this, but very quickly, all you want to do is you'll select your market, your sort on something like percent of cash sales or percent absentee owners. You'll start removing low distressed areas. You'll make sure the days on market are not too high. And that's how you're going to figure out, okay, these are the best markets for me to target. You know, and once you figure, like, I might even just sort on distress score actually. So, okay, well, this one I'm not, you know, you'd want to figure out 94 is kind of on the upper limit, but the point of this is not how to use this tool. The point of this is to say, okay, if you decide 68111 is a good zip code to target, that there are a lot of good transactions there, go super deep into this zip when you're talking about the absentee owner and those larger lists before expanding into the other ones. The reason for this is because you have a limited budget, and certain lists, like the really good lists, there's just not enough of them. And so eventually you're going to run out of those really good lists. And so you need to then start hitting the broader list, the high equity, the absentee owners, and you want to make sure you're targeting the right areas first. So go deeper. Part of targeting the right areas also means spending more money on those people. So spending more on direct mail, multiple different types of direct mail instead of going wider, multiple skip tracing, etc. Okay, going on to another mistake I see a lot is not utilizing the correct filters on lists. Regardless of the list, no matter how good you think it is, the bankruptcies, the divorces, all of that good stuff, certain things you're going to miss. So things like making sure it's not listed, right? You want to uncheck that unless you're doing some type of creative stuff, you know, make sure not listed is there. You want to be targeting under the median home price. You want to make sure that you have unknown sold date checked. There's a little box in there for, let's see, ownership info. Right here, you want to make sure include unknown sales date is checked. Same with equity. Let's see, estimated equity here to here. Thought they had a unknown. Maybe they got rid of it. Or maybe they just automatically include that now. So you may want to double check that. But estimated equity, just making sure that you're not cutting off really good leads because Propstream doesn't know what the equity is. What else was I thinking? Yeah, so this is another big one. When utilizing different lists, go more detailed because there's no sense in wasting your marketing dollars. And by that, I mean, when creating various lists, let's say you're going after leans, or let's just use leans, for example. Very important that, you might want to say, oh, I want to just, let's do this for real. So let's say we're going after a lean list. And let me remove this MLS data that I had before. Years of ownership, 5 or more, I'll include that. All right. So 1497, you might, awesome, great. I got 1,497 people on a lean. But a lot of these leans are going to be garbage. And so although you're going to start eliminating a lot of data, it's worth it because there's really no sense in wasting your marketing dollars. So when creating these various lists, whether leans or bankruptcies or others, you really should use these date filters. Otherwise, you could be getting really horrible data. So for example, with a lien, if the lien was filed 20 years ago, I don't really care. So I might go on this and just say, hey, show me everybody in the last, 4 or 5 years. Show me everybody with a lien then. Lien amount is, again, another one where you need to check and verify the data that you're getting, because a lot of times you could leave this blank and you'll be okay. But other times you're going to get a whole lot of crap data. So if I put like a 5,000 minimum, how many does that get? 282. So I would much rather target somebody who has an actual lien. I mean, some of these liens, let's just put $200, or let's see if there's any here. Okay, 62. So there's 62 people with a $200 or less lien. Like, this is not a good list. And so really, just because they have a lien or they have a bankruptcy or have any of these, really make sure that you utilize these other filters that are in there to make your data better. And so it's a real lien, it's a real bankruptcy, etc. All right. So yeah, and same with the tax filters and everything else. Like put the amounts in here so that that data is much more accurate. Another thing I see people use Propstream. They use Propstream skip tracing, and they use the Propstream direct mail. There's just a lot of better sources out there, and although it does make it convenient to do it all in one place, it's just not that accurate. And so I would highly utilize or recommend utilizing a company like IDI for your skip tracing. It's going to be 100 times more accurate. Yeah, you're going straight to the source. Speaking of source, I get this question a lot, which is, what's the best data provider and what's the best skip trace provider? And essentially, there's only a couple sources for everything. For skip tracing, there's really only 2 to 3 sources that everybody gets their skip trace data from. And also with assessor data and all the data we're seeing for here, there's only 2 or 3 sources. So you see companies like Batch Leads and Propstream and Propelio and all these different companies, they're all getting their data from the same place, which is really there's First American Title, there's Core Logic, there's Black Knight. So these are the core data. Really what differentiates a lot of providers like Propstream or these different skip trace providers like you see here is how often they're going and updating the data. So I think it makes a lot more sense on the skip tracing. So on a skip tracing, if I was Propstream and you went and you wanted to skip trace a contact, if I went to the source and said, okay, here's an address, 1417 Sherwood Avenue, can you please provide me a phone number for this? And Propstream had to go out and pay that source. for that phone number, they might pay 5 cents and then charge you at 12 cents, so, or 10 cents. So they just made 5 cents. However, what if there's 1 million people using Propstream and 100 people a day are asking for what's the phone number for this? Why would Propstream go out and request from the source what that phone number was 100 times a day? It's not going to change. And so they don't. And that's the problem, is with a lot of different skip tracing providers, is that time between when they go back to the source and say, okay, I'm getting another request for 1417 Sherwood Avenue, give me the phone number. So that's the dilemma. Propstream could go every single time and then it's 100% accurate. Or they could say, well, it doesn't really change, and I'd much rather keep all 10 cents and, you know, just pay the original provider one time and then keep that number. And then any new request, just send them what I have on my database. And that's what a lot of different providers do. And so it's not that the source that they get it from isn't good. It is. It's just the frequency in which different data providers and skip trace providers go back to the source and get a refresh. And so oftentimes, you know, on the skip trace data, it might be 6 months, it might be a year between when somebody first asked for this and they went back and they got it again. So that's the problem. And that's really the issue. So that's why I suggest checking the source on everything. So when I was saying create your filter list, then go back to the source, being your county record data, your county assessor data, Zillow to see expired listing data, is to see when was the last time they went back and got a refresh. And same on the skip tracing. If you're in a tiny little town, you know, maybe the data will be accurate because they don't have that on record. And so they have to go back and get a refresh. But if you're in a place where it's likely been skip traced 1,000 times, they're not going back to the source every time. They might go back every 6 months or so. So a good data source for the skip tracing that I like a lot is IDI. So I think that is it as far as my thoughts that I wrote down on the common mistakes that I see. I know this was a lot and I got kind of techie, but hopefully this helps a lot. Some little tips and tricks that I've found. Well, man, there's a lot, so I don't want to confuse anyone. So I'm just going to leave it here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I would say, if you remember anything from all of this, is use Propstream more for its niche lists but verify those niche lists before you actually go out and pull them, just to verify that they're accurate. Cool. Steven, see you have your hand up. Thanks for asking questions.
Hey,
What's up?
how you doing? Quick question about running a pre-foreclosure list. The difficulty I'm having is trying to figure out the dates. So as an example, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. So I'm looking for, say as an example, I'm going to run a list. It's pre-foreclosure. I'm looking for list pendants filings. And I want to see within the last, say 12 months, as an example, list pendants filings. And I seem to be, I can't remember exactly what it looks like, but let's see if I'll look at what you're doing in.
What market are you in?
I'm in Palm Beach County, Florida.
Okay. So it came up with 996 notice of default list pendants recorded April 1st, 2022 or later. What was your question?
Okay, so you put a recording date on there of looks like 1 year back. And that was for well, I'm looking at your filters. Notice of default, list pendants, right? That's your
Mhm.
status. Um, maybe I just wasn't hitting the correct filter for the recording date to get an accurate list, because it seems like here's what I was happening is I was getting stuff that was coming that was recorded a long time ago. Um, um, that was one of the problems. Let me see. Or it's not showing a record. Like there is no I'll look at a record and there was no list pendants filed.
Okay.
All right. Those are some of the other problems I was having.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you nailed it. You need to verify before just pulling that list and saying, okay, it's good to go. I
Yeah.
don't use Propstream for pre-foreclosure data. I've found that it's not very accurate. My data source for that is let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, I've got it open. Is Property Radar. Let me send you a link for that. Give me 1 second, and I'll show you exactly how I pull it. And it's 1,000 times more accurate. The owner of I feel like I'm just bashing Propstream. Really, they're amazing. I mean, they sold for a shitload of money, and they clearly have been providing a ton of value. There's just better options for certain things. So
Yeah.
here, I'm just sharing my link for Property Radar. So what you want to do is, so Property Radar started as foreclosure radar. Sean O'Toole, the owner, like all he cared about was foreclosure. So when it comes to foreclosure data, you should use foreclosure radar or Property Radar. Will be far, far better. So what you'll want to do is you're going to do a search, and you want to get something called I forget what it's called, but it gives you monitoring of your county. It's an additional dollar amount, but it's well worth it. That will allow you to monitor foreclosure data in your county. But let's just do it without it, because it's still, even without that additional info, it's still going to be far, far better. So Palm Beach County, I think we need to go location, county, Palm Beach County. What's going on? I don't know. It might not be logged in.
I think Trump had something to do with that.
I heard he got indicted today, didn't he, or yesterday?
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
All right.
Welcome to America.
All right. So here we go. Let's go property type, single family, just to kind of move out all the noise on this. Oh
Yeah.
no. I just got logged out. See, let me log into my account real quick. You're gonna love this though. This is gonna be 1,000 times more accurate than your Propstream data. All right, so let's do that one more time. Palm Beach County, Florida. Search property type, single family. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go here to foreclosure. In foreclosure stage, now this is something that Propstream doesn't have, and
Yep.
this is gold. It's actively in foreclosure. So this is what really matters. Like if everything's been resolved, if the property's been sold, whatever, it doesn't matter. So you're going to see this is key right here. This alone is going to, right now there's only 935 currently active foreclosures in Palm Beach County. But we can go further, obviously. We can go foreclosure, foreclosure stage. We can go, you know, we don't want bank-owned, third party owned. We don't want sell pending. We don't want auctions. We just want the pre-foreclosures. Okay, so we click on that, brought it down to 564. Now we can get even more into the details. We can go notice of default, for example, default date. And this is where you were, you know, let's just go date range. Let's go last 365 days. Okay, add criteria. Why didn't that work? Foreclosure, notice recording date. Here we go. Last 365 days. I gotta get rid of this this other filter. Okay, so that they've all been recorded in the last 365, but you can see, okay, if you want to get the people that literally like just got filed, maybe we just go the last 90 days to kind of button it up a little bit. So last 90 days, update this criteria. 331. I mean, there's more filters you can do. I would also go listing, listed for sale. Let's go no. Let's also go let's do this too. Well, if they just got a notice of default, then it's not going to be there's likely no auction date set, but let's look at it. We can double click any of these and we can look and we can see if we want to add anything else. So if you go hit transactions and I think you scroll down here, here's the foreclosure information. So you can see the list pending was filed February 27th, 2023. And there's its current status. So yeah, this is much more accurate. This is exactly what you need. And there's a ton of other filters you can do on the foreclosure data as well. One of my favorites is looking at, let's get rid of this, this filter and notice, let's go sell tracking, I think. Sell date is in, let's go this, not this month, let's go next, you know, next 30 days, something like this. So you want to get the super desperate people.
You're trying to search for the auction date coming up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These guys are going to be like super motivated. Well, maybe not motivated.
I think it's probably called auction date or something like that. Not sales tracking. Yeah.
Yep, I think you're right.
Notice of no.
Original sell date, sell publish date, sell original sell date. This is original. This isn't exactly it, but you get what I'm going after.
Yeah. Because then you know these are people that look, you got to do something now or you're going to lose your house.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's go get rid of that. What if they
there
post?
Probably is an auction date on there somewhere. You just got to find it.
Yeah. But the idea is getting the really foreclosure stage. Oh, because auction was unselected, so I was asking for them possible. I was telling people that are in auction. So yeah, but if we add that in, now we can do it, and that's going to give you an incredible list.
Yeah. So I'm assuming this is a paid service.
It is, yeah. But it's like, the problem is there's a million people using Propstream. And so it's like, okay, you do really need to use other data sources and go more. I don't like the word niche because I've noticed people going after these crazy super niche lists. And I meant to mention this earlier, where there's not a large amount of them. I like the larger list that there's a lot of new folks hitting that list every single week, every single month. And so you're not narrowing and you're putting all your eggs in one basket of like, give me, fire damaged properties, where there's like 3 of them. And it's like, okay, that's a lot of work to get that list. So going after like what you're doing here, foreclosures, but getting super accurate data on it. And there's a lot of them. So let's see, like sell notice, foreclosure stage, notices sell. I don't like original because they postpone things all the time. Okay, but now we've narrowed it down to 42 people that had a foreclosure coming up in the next 30 days. I would probably filter down the property value, make sure people have equity, etc. But now we've got a much more manageable list.
Right. Okay. Do you have any tricks on how you would contact a pre-foreclosure customer?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times they're in denial. And so it's just about just a lot of contacts, and not taking no for an answer. And just being relentless, almost hitting them daily, especially if they're, 30 days out from losing their property. I mean, I know this sucks, but the door knocking still works. But yeah, I would say text them, ringless voicemail, call them daily, and don't take no for an answer because they are going to lose their property.
Yeah, we can't do RVM in Florida. That's guaranteed fine.
All right. Well, I think my time is up. All right. Cool. Well, thank you for the question, Stephen.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. If anyone else has any other questions, I'll hang out.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi. Yeah, just one small question. I'm really glad you brought up Property Radar. So recently I have, I'm working, I have a subscription to Propstream and Property Radar. And I want to concentrate on one of them. I want to give up the other.
Yeah, I'd give up Propstream.
Yeah, you think? Okay,
I mean, 1000%, yeah.
And I heard about that Property Radar are really good on the West Coast and less in the Midwest and other states, or is it not correct anymore? Can I trust that they will bring me good data from, let's say, the Midwest as well?
Yeah, so I think that rumor started like years ago when Property Radar first came out. They were only in California, then they expanded to Nevada and Washington, so they just weren't available. And then they spent a long time getting that additional county data, and it's very easy to get nationwide data for the county and recorder data. Very easy. That's why PropWire has it all for free, because it's one subscription, to like a First American database, and boom, you've got everything. What Property Radar has done amazingly well, though, is they haven't taken the short, easy way to connect to additional data sources to get like more refined data. Like, for example, on this foreclosure data, where a lot of stuff is local and you can't just buy it all from one place. And so probably at the beginning, yeah, they just bought like this one nationwide data source and then expanded into the major markets, getting all these little smaller add-on data sources. And so bottom line is, I would still say in any market, they're going to be better than Propstream. Whether they've gone as deep into every single little market in your Midwest towns, maybe not, but I'm sure they're still expanding and trying to do so. So I would check, find a list that you're looking at, like tax delinquencies, and see, okay, have they got that information in this specific county that I'm after? But as a whole, I would say it's better.
Property Radar, more accurate, more recent data.
Yeah, I mean, here's the truth behind it is Propstream had an incredible affiliate offer, and they still do. And so a lot of coaches and a lot of people promote it because they get a lot of kickback. Property Radar has no kickback. And so nobody promotes it, although it's far better. And that's just the truth of it. So it's not that these coaches mean bad. It's just that they're in business and they need to make money. And so if, somebody comes to them and says, hey, I'll give you half for promoting this product and I'll give you nothing for promoting this one, it's like,
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So that's why everyone talks about Propstream and not Property.
Hey, Josh, do you like successors data or for probate and inheritance?
No, I don't. I used to think of what's his name, Morby or something like that. Morty. Anyways, the problem with it is when you boil it down, you're paying a stupid amount for just a few data sources, because you're getting every single deceased person that owned a property. And so it could be that this person died 30 years ago. It could be that it's a land or a multifamily or whatever. So when you filter it down to just be like, hey, how many single family in the last year died? You're buying 100 and you may get one. And I think that's just not worth it. When you're spending $100 for just a single contact.
So who do you recommend?
I'm working on one. So what I do is very difficult, but it works. And I shouldn't be recording this, but I am. So I go to legacy.com. It's it records all of the deceased folks. And it's just like a newspaper that publishes all deceased folks. And then I take that full list every day and I look and I see, okay, does this name match up with somebody in the county? And it's all automated. And so it doesn't take any time. But that's what I do. I haven't found a good cheap source that does it in mass like we're doing. There's a few out there that are like, 5K plus, and I just don't think it. I mean, truthfully, what you can do that works almost as well. It's not perfect, but is in Propstream they have like a pre-probate filter, and then in Property Radar, I think they do too. They also have like age. So you could filter, put 90 years old or older, like chances are they're deceased or they're about to, and it works almost as well at a fraction of the cost.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try it. Thanks.
Yeah. They've also got additional filters in there, such as affidavits of death. That works really good, and that's exactly what that is. Somebody passed away. So and that
was legacy.com.
No, so the legacy is for just the name,
just recordings.
It's just the person's name that passed away, not necessarily that they owned a property. So then you got to take that and look and see, did they own a property? And so it's a little bit of work, but I stopped using successor data maybe 4 years ago. I just found that it wasn't worth the price of admission, just because when you boil it down, you just don't get enough good data sources.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's 30 years of data, and you got to filter through it and figure out what's current and what's active, right? Yeah. So Property Radar does have some access to some things.
Well, it had demographic data, right? So you got the age in there, so you can use that. And then you've also got affidavits of death in there. And I think there's a few other filters you can utilize to get figure it out.
I mean, a death certificate is pretty accurate. I mean, somebody died. That's a good place to start, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, that's super accurate. That's probably one.
You got to check to see if there's any real estate involved. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions? All right. I'll leave it here. Hopefully you all found this informative. if you need someone to do all this work for you, figure out the data, do your marketing, definitely reach out. That's what we do. And I think we're really freaking good at it. So cool.